excellent introduction. Why don't we all give Kelly a round of applause for her. I am Todd Young, and I'm running for your congressional office. I think many of you have a pretty good sense from that introduction about my background. Let me attempt to fill in some of the gaps for those that aren't as familiar with me and what I stand for and what this election is all about. I really enjoy taking questions from people. I've been doing this for about 18 months now, holding town hall meetings, visiting with Tea Party groups, sitting down with just concerned citizens over a cup of coffee, and I'm going to continue doing that within this campaign and beyond. I think it's really important to open up your ears, to listen to people, and that's what representation in a republic, a constitutional republic, is all about. Someone mentioned the Federalist Papers earlier, and when I think of the Federalist Papers, I tend to go to James Madison. In one of those papers, he opined on the role of a legislator. And James Madison said it was the role of a legislator to refine and enlarge the views of the people. Now that's kind of flowery language. They spoke a different way than we do today, back in the 1700s, the 1800s. But for me, what that means, refine and enlarge the views, is first you listen to them on whatever the given issue is of the day. Healthcare, cap and trade. You get the people's concerns, their thoughts, their aspirations. And it also gives the legislator an opportunity to share his initial thoughts. Then you go back, you study the issue in great detail. You tell people how you're thinking of voting after visiting with them again. And you get their feedback. You just go through that process a number of times. Some of it done by in-person visits, some of it phone calls, and some of it letters. And then ultimately, it's the job of the legislator to be able to explain his vote and to cast a vote of conscience. Now, Baron Hill, unfortunately, didn't even get the beginning of that process right. He wasn't listening to people. He still isn't.
Right.
I
got that one.
Yeah. Now, for the lucky few, I've heard that Baron Hill is holding a screened tele-town hall meeting. That's right. You have the opportunity to submit your carefully selected questions to Baron Hill, and they will sift through them and select those that are very easy to respond to, open up the lines, and you can then pose your question. Well, we all know that is a farce, especially if that's the only thing you're doing. I wouldn't be so critical if Baron Hill were supplementing normal town hall meetings, ones that aren't pre-scripted, with some town halls, but you know, folks, you got to listen to the people, and so that's what tonight's all about. I hope we'll hear a lot of questions later. I grew up here in Indiana. My parents were incredible people. They remain incredible people. I know that Kelly has met them. Some of you have. They're actively involved in this campaign. My father is also a small business person, much like the story we heard earlier. He's been working hard for a number of years to make his family's life better and to eke out a living. And he made a decent living. He was able to provide for us at home, instill good values in us. And I learned from my father the importance of working very hard toward pursuing your dreams. My mother, registered nurse, later got involved in real estate some. My mother, also a hard worker, but I think what I learned most from my mother is the importance of serving a cause greater than yourself. It's not all about self-interest. You need to look to the community, even the future generations. And it was my mother's emphasis on service that caused me to join the Navy out of high school. And it's why I jumped at the opportunity after spending a year enlisted in the Navy to attend Annapolis for college. I spent 4 years at the U.S. Naval Academy, graduated, and then spent 5 years in the Marine Corps as an intelligence officer. We have any Marines here? That wasn't a trick question. How about other veterans? Raise your hand, please. not surprised by that, but we see a lot of people stepping up right now, and I think veterans are leading the charge, if you will. If you pardon the pun, that's our campaign theme. I think political leadership is about service, too. And somewhere along the line, some of our members of Congress have forgotten that. Ladies and gentlemen, far too many. Ladies and gentlemen, this 9th District Congressional office is not Barron Hill's office. It's your office. Yes. It's my office. And if Barron Hill decides to move back to the district, he can share a little stake in it. So this campaign is very much about service. It's about listening to the people, but it's also about fundamental values. When I was at the Naval Academy, I spent quite a bit of time studying military theory, military history. There was a military theorist, I guess you'd call him. His name was General Karl von Clausewitz. This guy was a Prussian. And I don't remember very much what Clausewitz wrote, but he wrote one line that has kind of stuck with me. It went something like, "War is politics by other means." Well, folks, I started thinking not too long ago that maybe Clausewitz had it right, but you could take a different spin on that quote. Isn't politics war by other means? Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the midst of a struggle here. A struggle between those folks who believe that the answer to all of life's problems is government. Higher taxes, more spending, more debt, a government untethered by a written constitution, more government jobs. That's what they believe. We believe in freedom. We believe we can pull ourselves out of this, but we just need to continue empowering the American people to do it on their own. Lower taxes, less debt, less spending. In a constitution. In a written constitution that means what it says and says what it means. And that's what we all believe in, and that's really what this campaign is about. Now, this is a struggle that's been going on for some time. I think back to, and I'm a student of history, the 60s. Ronald Reagan stood before the Republican convention in 1964. And he said to those convened, he said, "This is the issue of this election. Whether we still believe in our capacity for self-government or we abandon the principles of the American Revolution and admit that a little intellectual elite and a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves." Well, folks, I do not believe that Barron Hill or Nancy Pelosi or Harry Reid or any of the rest of those folks can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Yeah. Right.
So all of you have stepped up. This has been the most encouraging thing I've seen over the last 18 or so months. This constitutional republic will go down the tubes if people don't get involved when it really counts.
That's right.
This is not going to be the French Revolution where people are marching in the streets with pitchforks and torches. Instead, America will go down the tubes when people believe they can't make a difference. When they sit inside, when they turn off the TV news, put on a movie, close the blinds, and say, "You know what, I'm just not going to deal with all that mess. It's too depressing." But that's not happening. People have stood up. They've gotten involved. They've called their members of Congress. They have, where necessary, held signs up, protesting. They've written letters. And because of that, we are poised to, at the very least, provide some loyal opposition to this crazy leftist agenda, ladies and gentlemen. We've seen tough times before. I go back to the Civil War. Pretty tough time. Battle of Gettysburg.
Killed a lot of Americans.